Hello and welcome to episode 3 of Hot Market Cold Brew, the overly caffeinated real estate podcast that's always on the grind. I'm your host, Dominic Janitis, and I have a great show for you today. I'm sure I say that in the last 2 episodes as well. But anyways, great show for you today. I don't have an appraiser with me. I have the appraiser with me, and I can hear her laughing, but it is true. I have what I have been affectionately calling the most badass appraiser with me in the greater Pittsburgh area, Pennsylvania, and I think nationwide. So we are very fortunate to have her here with us today. Can't wait to get into the interview with her, ask her some questions. There are some big appraisal changes that have just started to take place in 2026. It's going to take some trial and error to figure out the new appraisal changes, but we have got Michelle with us today, and she is going to help us navigate understanding what it looks like and what it means for realtors, what it means for property owners, and the industry as a whole. So I'm so excited to have her here today. I'll just say right off the bat, you made it through episode 1, you made it through episode 2, now you're here at episode 3. If you remember from January's episode, I was just as surprised as you are that I've made it this far. But I guess yins keep pressing play, so we're gonna keep going. So thank you so much for choosing to spend your time with me today. We're gonna have a lot of fun. So stick around. Before we pour into my interview with Michelle, let's go over some exciting real estate news that's happened in the Pittsburgh market, because after all, this is Hot Market Cold Brew. Welcome to Hot Market Cold Brew's Quick Sip, your quick real estate check-in. Let's check out what's brewing in Pittsburgh. All right, first up is from Trib Live. At the beginning of January, we saw the new City of Pittsburgh Mayor, Corey O'Connor, signed his first executive order, which aims to streamline the permitting process here in Pittsburgh. This was part of his campaign trail to help bring and attract businesses, housing, and development to Pittsburgh. We're really excited to see where this one goes. The article, quote, says, "This order gives various departments, including the Department of Permits, Licensing and Inspections, the Department of Mobility and Infrastructure, and the Department of City Planning, 60 days to report back to the mayor on how to revamp the permitting process to make it quicker to build in Pittsburgh," end quote. This is huge because anyone who has tried to build or develop in the city knows that, I know this article says that it takes about 8 months. We're looking at sometimes 18 months to maybe even 2 years for some of the recent developments that have been happening in Pittsburgh. So really, really interested to see where this executive order goes, what the departments report back. They've got 60 days, so the time is ticking. So really excited to see where this one goes. According to a recent Realtor.com article that talks about AI jobs and data centers and how it drives demand and traffic to certain real estate markets, it's no surprise that Pittsburgh is discussed. It actually talks about the out-of-market traffic demand increasing from 30.5% to 55% in the Steel City. All right, last but not least, probably some welcomed news for home buyers out there looking in the Pittsburgh market. Realtor.com released an article at the end of January that talks about the top 10 best markets for home buyers. Pittsburgh is number 3 on that list. Our average median list price is $240,000. We're seeing buyers have a little bit more confidence, buyers have a little bit more bargaining power, more purchasing power, and with a little bit more inventory on the market, it's putting Pittsburgh at number 3 in the country. So some good news for some home buyers looking maybe for this spring. And that, my friends, is your quick sip. Let's get back to this episode of Hot Market Cold Brew. And as always, don't forget to keep checking back for more hot real estate news pouring really soon. Well, there you have it. We have a ton of exciting real estate news that has happened over the last month. So super excited to share it with you today. So now, the moment you guys have all been waiting for. Like I said, I have the appraiser with us today. My guest is Michelle Czekalski Bradley, and she is an incredible force in the appraisal world. I've had the pleasure of getting to know her over the last couple of years with our work with the Pennsylvania Association of Realtors. We are Harrisburg buddies. We always see each other there as we're advocating for private property rights, industry change, etc. And quite honestly, she is one of my favorite humans also. I've gotten the pleasure of knowing her over over the last few years. So Michelle Czekalski Bradley, thank you so much. Welcome to Hot Market Cold Brew. How are you?
I'm fantastic, and I love being here because I love to talk real estate and I love coffee. So this is a great thing for me.
Well, cheers. And we've got two very Pittsburgh mugs.
Yes.
Mine says Nebby, and then hers is the bus that fell into the pothole. So we thought that was very fitting. Well, welcome. And like I said, thank you so much for joining us today. I don't think you guys realize who I have sitting in this chair, and I'm going to read off. Now, you know I love my iPad, and it has all of my cheat sheets and my questions, but I'm going to read this list of things to you, and you will realize who is essentially running the show today. She is the chief appraiser at Czekalski Real Estate, which is her own company. She has held multiple positions with both the National Association of Realtors and the Pennsylvania Association of Realtors. She is currently the appraisal specialist on the board of directors at PAR, the Pennsylvania Association of Realtors. At the National Association of Realtors, she is the vice chair of the Real Property Valuation Forum and previously chaired the Real Property Valuation Committee. No big deal. Jeez. She also just wrapped up an 8-year term with the Appraisal Standards Board with the Appraisal Foundation, also very casual, which is the board that writes and interprets the Uniform Standards of Professional Appraisal Practice, or USPAP, which are the national competency and ethical performance standards that all appraisers nationwide must adhere to. Like, are you serious? Like, the list goes on and on. She's currently the longest serving chair in board history at 3.5 years. So again, I don't have an appraiser. I have the appraiser here with us today. As I said before, you're a badass, an appraisal badass. And I don't know, can I say, well, it's my own show. I can say that. You're a badass. Michelle, this is incredible that you are choosing to spend your time with me. And I am so excited. So before we pour into all of that, and I know I've just regaled everyone with your background, what are you drinking? How do you take your coffee?
I take my coffee very, very hot. If it is not going to burn my tongue, don't even give it to me. I like it hot and I like it black. Don't mess with flavor. Don't mess with creamer. I go into a coffee shop and I say, don't put flavor, whipped cream, ice cream. I don't want anything. I want cold, hot, strong coffee. Cold or hot, but I like it hot.
She likes it hot. Some like it hot. What can I say?
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, fabulous. I am drinking, today we are drinking coffee from one of my absolute favorite places. Coffee is from La Colombe, but it's out of Coupe de Ville in the Strip District. So big fan of their establishment. Their coffee is my favorite. So I'm drinking a little cold brew here. I don't know, a little ASMR. And she's got a hot one. I don't know if you can hear that. There it is. Well, follow-up question to that. Because this is Hot Market Cold Brew, what does a hot market mean to you?
Oh, hot market means lots of activity, buyers and sellers interacting, lots of showings, lots of just market activity. And it's important that appraisers are always watching that market activity.
Absolutely.
It's not about just the sales side. The appraisers have to interpret what's going on in the market. Appraisers don't set the value. Appraisers interpret what the market is doing. So the appraisers have to be very in tune with what's going on.
So with that, with Pittsburgh being such a hot market and everything that's going on in the real estate industry, especially rates having dropped in January and everything else, there's just always a slew of things. Real estate, you guys have been watching and listening, not just to me, but even since the pandemic. I mean, this has been a roller coaster of an industry with tons of changes along the way. That being said, I love having Michelle here because she is going to be able to get into the nitty-gritty with us about all of these big appraisal changes that are coming down the pike that really have started already. So unless you're really tuned into real estate, or I would say tapped into the industry, even especially from the appraisal side of things, you might not really know what's happening. And these are big changes, big changes. And so thinking just before we really get into the big picture, will these changes affect your property value? That's the big question here. And I think, Michelle, we're going to get into it, right?
Yes.
So first question for you, big picture. What is actually changing in the appraisal world right now?
These are some of the biggest changes that are taking place in the appraisal profession in modern history. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac have decided they want to modernize real estate appraisal. And to modernize appraisal, they really want to be able to be more streamlined, have appraisals be more transparent.
Okay.
They want to reduce the time it takes to get an appraisal done and reduce the time it takes to get a mortgage commitment.
We would love that too.
Yeah, I'm sure you would. So appraisers are going to have to completely change their entire process, not the methodology, but the process and how we go through homes, collect the data, and deliver the final appraisal report.
That is a lot. In a nutshell, that's a lot. And is the appraisal system called, what is it called? What are they calling it now? Like, is it?
So the new terminology is called UAD 3.6. That's the most technical thing I'm going to say this whole podcast. UAD, Uniform Appraisal Data Set 3.6.
Okay.
Nobody has to remember that term. You just have to remember that this is the biggest change that is taking place in appraisal.
Changes are happening. They don't have
Yes.
to remember the name. Okay. What type of real estate does this affect?
This is all residential because Fannie and Freddie only do single family residential. That means 1 to 4 units. This is not commercial. This is not any kind of other property outside of single family residential units 1 to 4.
So I guess that would technically get involved with the multifamily then.
Yes,
Yeah,
up
but
to
no
4 units.
but no commercial on the first floor.
No
So
commercial.
just keep that in mind when you're thinking about these changes. This is strictly residential up from 1 to 4 units, or obviously a single family detached home
Right.
as well. Okay, I think that's a really great place to start. When you're looking at this also as a whole, will these changes be in place only for appraisals ordered by lenders, or maybe like independent appraisals for other type of property specific valuations?
Oh, that's a great
Or is this a
question.
change for the whole everything?
Well, first of all, it is nationwide. It is a change for all residential properties, but there's a caveat. That change is for mortgages that are going to be sold to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. This is not affecting portfolio lenders. The vast majority of my business is divorce, estate, litigation type work, although I do a lot of lending work as well. It will not affect me. I will not have to do this for divorces, estates, things like that. But if it is a secondary market mortgage, and that's the majority of mortgages.
I was just going to say, listen up. That's why I wanted to ask this question for the differentiation.
That's the majority of mortgages throughout the United States. So real estate agents, if you're listening, your buyers most likely are getting a mortgage, and it's a secondary market mortgage for residential.
Great. Thank you. So with that said, why is this change happening? I mean, was the old system not good enough, or what are we doing here?
Well, there's been so much modernization, technology, love it or hate it, technology.
As we're sitting in a studio with like AI editors right now.
Technology changes everything, and every facet of the home buying and selling process has been modernized, except the appraisal.
Oh,
And that is because our forms are written for a typewriter. Can you believe it? The forms that appraisers are using today were developed for a typewriter.
That's crazy to think about.
2005.
Wow.
So they could not really computer read, computer score, data mine the appraisal information out of that appraisal. So we learned a lot during COVID, a lot of things we didn't want to learn, but we learned a lot during COVID. And one of them was we can do things with more technology. So this change has actually been coming for 8 years.
Wow.
But implementing technology during COVID really pushed it forward.
Yeah. Well, we didn't really have a choice, right?
Did not.
We saw how that had to shift. Okay. So next question here about these changes. Who is really driving the change? Is it appraisers, lenders, regulators? Who are we dealing with? I know you had mentioned Freddie and Fannie, but talk to me about it.
I love that question.
Okay.
And there's a reason. It's all Fannie and Freddie and the Federal Housing Finance Agency. They're really pushing the modernization. And I want everyone to know this. They did it without appraisers really in the loop. Now, they will say otherwise, but most appraisers did not have the opportunity to weigh in on these changes. There were some closed door meetings that went on for many, many, many years. But we did not have a true voice in the process.
What a shame. You would think that they would want the people involved in that process, as someone like Michelle specifically.
You'd
wow. Okay, so really thinking about that and how appraisers generally did not have a voice in moving this forward, or even having a seat at the table for this big change. What does that from an appraiser's perspective going into this? Are appraisers, you have to do it, but are they mad? Are they pissed? What's the industry feeling like?
What a phenomenal question that is, too. It's like I paid him to write these questions.
I was going to say, I'm going to give her 20 for saying that, please.
Appraisers are very unhappy about the change. Keep in mind, the average appraiser is a little bit salt and pepper in the hair. The average appraiser is over 60 years old. And many appraisers are saying, you know what, I've been doing this for a very long time. I'm really not interested in somebody shoving something down my throat and making me learn a whole new process.
Especially when I didn't have a say.
I didn't have a say.
Interesting.
And many appraisers still today use a tape measure and use paper and pencil. Not that they're archaic, but when the process works, why? If it's not broke, why fix it?
I see.
And many appraisers are now, because of UAD 3.6, again, that's the most technical thing I'm going to say, we are going to have to go into listings and homes with an iPad and use cloud-based software.
Wow.
Now, think about the average appraiser being over 60, and they have been using paper and pencil for 30, 40 some years. They don't always want to do that.
Sure.
So we are seeing a retirement. Fannie and Freddie themselves have projected an approximate 20% reduction in appraisers nationwide.
Do you feel like that was on, this is, are they trying to maybe get a changing of guard?
Well, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but let me say it this way. There is a lot of talk in the appraisal profession that some appraisers are feeling being pushed out.
Wow.
Modernization happens.
Well, that's something that you can't fight. That's
I
totally
don't stop at a phone booth anymore to call my office.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't use a Polaroid to take pictures anymore. You have to harness technology, or you're going to be roadkill on the information superhighway. Come on, you've got to modernize.
Yep.
So I'm all about technology. I'm all about modernization. What I'm not about is entities that we don't know data mining our appraisal reports, and where is that data going?
And where is it going?
Because that's the consumer's home.
Absolutely. You think about the personal information that's on there, and then there's the general data that goes into. There's a lot of information that can be out there about it.
And photos.
And photos. That's true.
There's a lot of photographs. There's floor plans. When you get a mortgage, are you fully aware that the appraiser is going to be coming through the home, and we are going to be collecting things that we've not ever had to collect before? We have to collect whether there's broadband internet available to your home under this new program. We have to include specific photos of upgrades and deficiencies that are going to be required to be repaired before the loan closing. We have to measure the front door threshold to the ground and tell them how many feet the front door is from the ground. So there's a lot more data points. We're going to be spending a lot more time inside the home.
That was going to be one of my questions. As she's regaling us with all of this great information, I'm looking through, and she's like answering every question that's already here. So I'm like, all right, vamp a little bit. But I think this is really good information, because you talk about how the photos are embedded throughout and spending more time in the home. What in general, from a reporting perspective, and then also the experience from a buyer's or from a seller's perspective, what do these things look like now? How are they really going to translate on paper? More visual? Like, what are we dealing with here?
So the whole process of UAD 3.6 is to streamline the appraisal report.
Okay.
So it's one report. Instead of instead of a condo or a multi-unit form, it's going to be one report.
Okay.
And as we go through the home, if it has an ADU, an accessory dwelling unit, otherwise known as mother-in-law suite, if it has that, we check the box and that whole section opens up. If it's not there, that section never even shows.
So think of it like when, and for those of you out there who have different drop downs, like if you select something online, or whatever it will say, whatever the drop down is. And then if you select one of them, it opens up one section. If you select another one, it opens up a completely different one. So Michelle, you're telling us that it looks like that.
If you want fries with that, you drop that down.
We always want fries with that. Absolutely.
I want the dressing on the side. It's the exact same concept with the appraisal.
Okay. So then really, there's a bunch of data points now. I think in the 70s, right? There's how many, 68 or 70?
Oh, way more than that.
Way more than that now? Hundreds of new data points. Okay. So all of that being involved in it, there's a lot going into that. What is that? How is that going to impact the real estate transaction? Length of time. Talk to me about this, because with all of these changes happening, I'm sure I know real estate agents are scared. They're pulling their hair out. I know that buyers are hearing that things are going to take much longer. What's the real impact? What are we looking at?
Change is scary. Yep. Technology can be scary if you don't understand it. What we all need to remember is we're going to get through it. The sun's going to come up tomorrow and it's going to be fine. But it'll be smoother for real estate agents to say to their consumer, their client, listen, things are going to take a little bit longer because we've got a big learning curve.
Yep.
Not only are appraisers going to be forced to collect more data points, spend more time in the home, learn an entire new process of having to do the appraisal, but also the lender has to learn an entire new process of underwriting.
A good point. That's such a good point.
So it's not just the appraiser. It's also the lender. It's every part of the mortgage, everything.
Yep.
And it's important for real estate agents to understand, if you let your buyers and sellers know, we've got a big thing going on in 2026. And by the way, this is mandatory as of November of 2026. So the learning curve is going to be all through this year.
So it's a buildup. So it's in place now, but as an optional buy-in, for lack of a better term. But then come November of 2026, the Band-Aid's ripped off. And if you haven't been using it before, you got to start using it now. Okay, so November of 2026. So it's a great thing because really, you think about the real estate changes that have happened from our side of it back in August of 2024, where new mandates are in place, et cetera. It all comes down to transparency and advocacy and consumer protection, really. It's this, and this is not really any different.
That's right.
It's all about that transparency part. So I think you bring up a good point about, learning curve, being open to, working with every single facet of the industry and basically disclosing, for lack of a better term, that things might be a little bit bumpy or rough right now, and figuring out what that looks like together, because it might take a little bit longer than we would normally see.
And agents need to remember when they're writing their sales, their offers, factor that in for that mortgage contingency, the timeline. We need to be careful about that.
Yeah, perhaps maybe an extra week or two or something like that. Okay.
We'll see how it goes.
We'll see how it goes. Really, we're all living this life for the first time together. So it's like same thing with real estate. So that's a really good point. So definitely a great piece of advice for any agents out there who are watching and not really sure how to structure a deal from there. Maybe you're factoring in an additional week or two for mortgage commitment because it might take a little bit longer, not only just for the appraiser to kind of navigate through that, but then to get to the underwriting team for them to kind of sift through all of the things that they need to look for. So time is definitely going to be
time and fewer appraisers in the mix to even do these types of appraisals.
That's true too.
So we have a little bit of a perfect storm here, folks. Fewer appraisers, many are retiring. We're expecting approximately, according to Fannie and Freddie figures, approximately 20% or so. That's totally a guess, but it's an educated guess. And then even the appraisers that are staying in the profession, some are saying, I don't know that I want to do a secondary market loan. So we're going to be all in this together, and we need to keep the lines of communication open.
Communication is so important, absolutely, and it will keep things moving forward. And thinking about everything that the agency side and the lender side, and we did talk about how the appraisers are going to be in the properties more. They're going to be taking photos, more detailed questions that you're going to be asking property owners, et cetera. Are appraisals now going to be harder or more strict because of all of this?
harder or more strict? I'm going to say the appraiser's methodology is not going to change at all. How we analyze and develop our market value opinions is not going to change. It's the reporting side once we've done that development and analysis.
So more of a clearer.
It's supposed to be more transparent,
Okay.
but if you ask an appraiser, we're going to say it's harder because there's a lot more things going in
Sure.
that we have to check certain boxes to make sure that it can be uploaded seamlessly through their computer. Transparent is the word. They're really looking for appraisers to be more transparent in how that development and analysis was done, being more clear on how we determine the adjustments, for example, for 2-bedroom versus a 3-bedroom home, for example.
I think that's a good point to bring up too. So then really when you're looking at from a seller's perspective, how should sellers be preparing for these changes? Because what should they be documenting? I mean, like, there's a lot of stuff that you guys are going to be looking for. And if sellers want to make this a smooth transaction, how are they going to button up their end of it to make sure this can be as quick as possible?
Well, you want to talk about the best value add for watching Dom on this video podcast right now. You're about to get it.
Oh, boy.
If a professional realtor goes into their listing appointment and says, I know what appraisers are going to be looking for in 2026 and beyond, let's get this down on paper and you are going to have such a smoother transaction. Get your seller up front to write down the dates of any changes to kitchens and every bathroom in the house. Previously, appraisers just had to make a holistic view of bathrooms in the home. Now we have to analyze every single bathroom in the home. When was it updated? When was it modified? Was it fully remodeled? Was it partially remodeled? Or has it not been updated at all?
How do you know that if they don't know, if the seller doesn't remember?
Well, if the seller doesn't know, legitimately, the appraiser has to make an estimate.
Okay.
Appraisers don't want to make an estimate.
Of course.
We want to know.
I want to know, right.
So as an agent, you bring a wonderful value add to this process by telling your seller, the appraiser is going to ask all these questions. Let's get this documented up front. Huge value add for realtors to bring to the transaction.
And it'll work. I would imagine it would work hand in hand. And I would say, I'm going to make an assumption here that 90% of your appraisers have access to the MLS. Is that right?
Well, hopefully 100%.
Hopefully 100%.
Hopefully 100%.
I've run into a few that haven't.
Yes, I want to know their names.
Yeah. But I'm thinking that based off of, and obviously I do more commercial than residential, so our disclosure, requirements are different. But I would imagine this is going to help that seller, that agent, sit down with the seller and fill out their seller disclosure, and hopefully that will then translate to uploading it to the MLS, and then maybe the appraisers will be able to take some of that information from the seller disclosure.
Yeah,
to help
and a
guide
really
you through
key
that.
point of that, Dom, I want to make sure the agents are hearing is the agents need to tell the sellers, you need to fill this out, and you need to provide that documentation.
I ain't filling that out.
The benefit of that, though, is doing that up front.
Absolutely.
Is if your agent is doing a phenomenal job and it's a hot market like here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, that home's probably going to sell pretty quickly, which means that appraiser is probably going to be showing up at the property pretty quickly.
Yep.
And we want to have that information up front. Don't hold the process up. The appraiser has to have this information or estimate it.
Right. It's not a question.
An option.
It's not an option. It's not a question of, can we? It's like, no, this is.
Right.
So what happens if you have an incomplete, if they can't answer something? What you just
the
leave
appraiser is going to estimate that
so
information.
it goes back to an estimation. So listen very closely to everyone out there. Listen very closely because this is very important. They're going to make estimations, and if you don't have the information, you might not like the estimate that they come up with, right? So it's very important that you come prepared as possible, as buttoned up as possible. And that's not just for the sellers and property owners out there listening and watching. It's also for the realtors out there, the licensed real estate practitioners. You be buttoned up, be prepared, because when you, and unfortunately, this happens more often than not, when you mess up and something might take a little bit longer, you're going to start passing the buck unfortunately. And we've all seen real estate agents blame the appraiser, blame the
It's always
lender.
the appraiser's
It's
fault.
all, at the end of the day, it's always the appraiser's fault. But you know what I mean?
Right.
This is something that you can get ahead of when you have your consult meeting with them. You know, this isn't something that you want to go to them after you're under contract with a buyer. This is something you should now be implementing into your consult when you sit down before you even sign on the dotted line to list. Here's everything that we are going to need, because at some point when rubber meets the road, you're going to need this information. And if you don't want it taking another 3 weeks, let's say, get this information ahead of time and help people like Michelle, which will then help people like appraisers or like lenders, that will help us, that will help closers, that will help ultimately buyer and seller
Smooth
get
transaction.
to close. Smooth transaction is the name of the game.
You brought something up there that I have to mention. You talked about the appraisal problem. If you as an agent hear from your lender and the lender says, "Oh, we have an appraisal problem with this loan," ask what the problem is. Very often, it's not an appraisal problem; it's an underwriting problem.
Oh, for sure.
So it's really important. And I'm also hearing when you talk about being prepared, I can hear a few of you out in the audience right now saying, well, specifically, give me a few examples. Okay, find out if broadband internet is available to the house. Find out the year the kitchen was modified and specifically what was modified. Find out the year any bathroom modifications were made and specifically what was made.
Can you get as nitty gritty, you being the seller, let's say, as pulling building permits if that's required in the area? I mean, that will be helpful, I would imagine.
Absolutely would be helpful, building permits. That's always an issue in my market because I work in predominantly a rural market north of Pittsburgh. They don't have building permits.
Yep, Butler County.
But some places do, some places don't. But, if a seller is selling the home and they didn't put the addition on, maybe they don't know if there was even a building permit. Any information that seller can document up front is going to help the appraiser. It's going to help the process.
Yep.
It's going to get to the closing table quicker.
And that's really ultimately, we are to bring buyer and seller together, help a smooth transaction. And make it as enjoyable. It should be a fun process for people, and you let the professionals worry about the stuff behind the scenes. But in order for it to be as seamless and smooth as possible, come to the table prepared with everything that you need. I think the one thing that I wanted to mention, you had talked about, how many changes are happening and all of that. And we've talked about property data collectors and that could be scary, and trying to navigate that evolving area. But and real estate agents worry about this too with AI and all of this stuff. Are appraisers concerned that their relevancy might be going away? I know the answer to this, but I want you to say it for
There
for
will always be a need for a good, competent, ethical appraiser. Period. Now, it's true that in mortgage finance transactions, there are some changes taking place. You mentioned property data collectors, PDC. If there's one thing you're hearing as an agent out there, I want you to hear this. If someone calls you to access your listing, you want to know, are they a property data collector or are they a certified appraiser? Now, property data collecting is a thing. There's nothing wrong with it, but property data collectors are not licensed. They're not certified. They have had some training. If you listen to Fannie and Freddie, they've had some training for, a day or so. And they're coming through the property, but you're responsible as a listing agent. You want to know who's coming through the home.
Absolutely. I think that's, when you are opening the door for someone, it is liability central.
Absolutely,
right? And,
liability.
You've got to just be careful. Not only are you, protecting yourself, because sometimes you might have to go and let these people in. Safety is an issue, but it's also maybe there's a family that's living there, or you don't know. Essentially, you don't know who you're letting in the home. So you want to be vetting, and you want to make sure that you've got people coming in that that know the industry, that know what they're doing. Then also you're kind of responsible for these homes that these properties. So take that into consideration when you're working through that. Now, I am sure that people out there are going to say, okay, all of these changes, all of this documentation, switching up the way that it's practiced, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. what's it going to cost? Because changes mean prices are going up, right? What's going on with it? Do you think that we're going to see some price increases?
Well, I'm not going to talk price specifically,
Sure.
but what I'm going to talk about is economics. Economics, okay? If you've got 30 Cabbage Patch dolls at Walmart today and
Not
you have
the
to
Cabbage
sell
Patch
every
dolls.
one of them, you got to do something to the price to make the Cabbage Patch dolls sell, right? If you, about 30 years ago when Cabbage Patch dolls were all the rage, you had people camping out overnight trying to buy them, and there were only a few. That's economics, folks. So
It was a Tickle Me Elmo back when I was
because
a young
I'm
buck.
much older than you.
Not at all.
But think about fewer appraisers. I've mentioned the average age of appraisers are over 60, and some of them are going to retire, and other ones don't want to do this new UAD 3.6. We have fewer appraisers that maybe are willing to do the work, and there's still demand out there. So it's simple supply and demand.
Economics. Yep. Great answer. I think that's a really just keep that in mind. She doesn't need to and she won't say it, but anticipate that prices may go up a little bit for your costs. And that's it's going to be what it is.
Even our coffee prices going up.
Oh yeah. I mean, so that is, I always say, what did Ben Franklin say? I think it was like the two things guaranteed in life are death and taxes.
Death and taxes.
And I think the third is that everything will go up in price. So, so just keep that in mind. I'm sure you'll see that. Final part of this interview, I have some other questions that we'll get into, but from a 30,000-foot view on here, what is the best piece of advice to homeowners and real estate agents dealing with all of this? Give me one big takeaway, one big piece of advice for them with what's going on.
Patience.
Okay.
And consumer public, rely on your professional realtor, because that's what the value add is. There's so many value adds for realtors to help you through this process. But consumers need to have patience and realtors need to stay educated.
Oh, 100%. Well, when I was in Harrisburg with you, quarter 3 or quarter 4, I can't remember. It was in 2025, and you got up and spoke in front of the board.
Give me a mic.
You and me both. I think we love a captive audience and a microphone, people here. Michelle was talking about all of these changes, and I think it was actually at maybe the Standard Forms meeting or something, and she stood up and was talking about these changes, and I said, oh my gosh. This is something, one, I mean, extremely topical for the podcast, but also, two, more people should know about this.
Yes.
And it's the education that comes down. It's like, educate yourself. And even if you're not a real estate practitioner and you're a property owner, and maybe right now you don't think that you're selling your property or whatever, this is something that is moving forward. So in the future, you're going to have to deal with this. So this is just a big way that the industry is changing. So Michelle, your answers have been fantastic, and I think have really opened the eyes.
Great questions.
Oh, please stop. I appreciate your direction. I think that's what we'll say, but I think this is all really helpful. And, like I said, please stay tuned. We're going to have probably follow-ups throughout the podcast over the next couple of months as we get closer. We may even have Michelle back on once this is like a mandated, maybe November, December, or maybe even a year from now, just to kind of do a follow-up and see how things have gone. So I really appreciate your time for giving us a rundown on all of the changes, but you're going to stick around a little bit longer so we can.
Bit.
Okay, perfect. So we're going to get into the next segment. All right. So as I mentioned, I'm going to keep you around a little bit longer I'm going to try to have some fun with this because the appraisal changes are heavy. I mean, these are, really important things that are happening in the market. And within the industry, but let's have a little bit of fun. Not that we didn't have fun in the last segment, of course, but let's maybe lighten it a little bit.
All right.
Sound good? Okay. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions here. What is the biggest myth about appraisals that you just want to die already? Like, just have them die. What are we thinking? Okay.
This is what I hear all the time.
Okay.
The appraiser killed my deal.
Oh, okay.
The appraiser didn't kill your deal. The market already spoke. The market is brutal. And the market spoke.
Yep. Okay, that's a good one. So here's my question. It's fact or myth. So we just talked about your appraiser killed the deal myth. This is one I hear all the time, and it drives me insane. But listing agents are prohibited from speaking to appraisers before, during, and after the appraisal process?
Oh, goodness. That's what I should have said.
That's all right.
And
That's what I'm here for.
That is the absolute biggest myth going on in the profession.
It's crazy to me.
There is nothing that prohibits a real estate agent from communicating to the appraiser. Now,
Totally.
if the communication is, hey, appraiser, either make this deal work or else, that's a little bit not so cool.
Yeah.
But the appraiser cannot disseminate confidential information about the appraisal back to the agent. So it's a two-way street. The
Right.
appraiser can talk to the listing agent. We just can't talk about anything confidential.
I think that makes sense. And I think there are just a lot of listing agents who are just afraid to have the conversation because they're afraid to say something wrong that could potentially, quote, devalue the
Call
property.
me up, I'll tell you.
You know what? Ain't that the truth? Give her a call. Okay, so that's really great. And that's one that always irks me. I'm like, you can talk to
me
these,
too.
they're not the enemy, people.
We aren't. Don't throw a tomato at me, please.
I had a lot of bad things thrown at me. Okay, so with that, in that vein, how often do appraisers feel the pressure to, quote, hit the number in a transaction?
Probably every time. Not nearly as much as it was in the early 2000s. We used to get faxes. Yes, I'm that old.
I wasn't going to say
We would get a fax for a new appraisal request, and it would say, tell me if you can hit $500,000 on this market value. Before you go out to the property, just let me know. Okay, so there are a lot of federal laws that changed since then, but it still has a lot of pressure because the loan originator wants to make that mortgage work. They're going to get a commission on it.
Sure.
It's not that they're being unethical. It's that's their business. The real estate agents want the deal to close. They've been working with the sellers or the buyers for X number of months. They want it to close. So everybody has a vested interest, and that's really one of the most important things to remember about an appraiser. We are the only entity in that transaction that is completely, and by definition, independent, impartial, objective. We're the only one.
Yeah, because you don't really have a vested on
We have
either
no
side.
vested interest on either
That's a really
side.
good point, I think, and I think more people should consider that when going into it. Okay, that's awesome. Let's talk about getting into maybe the biggest misunderstanding that agents or owners have about how value is actually determined.
How value is actually determined? Well, appraiser methodology has been around for decades and decades and decades. Okay, that has not changed. The appraiser interprets the market. We analyze what's going on. Many consumers think that we walk through the home, and as I'm leaving to go get in my car, they say, hey, what's it worth? It doesn't work that way. We just don't know. We can't. There's no magic crystal ball. We have to go and do the analysis. It's not instantaneous. A lot of people think we just throw a dart at a dartboard.
Remember that these are licensed professionals that have taken hours and hours and hours of classes. I think, isn't your exam 6 to 8 hours or something?
Well, it starts with the college degree, and then it goes with hundreds of hours of education beyond that, and then typically an apprenticeship that is 1 to 2 years or more, depending on which classification, and a national exam that generally has a 50% fail rate.
So it's
not
nothing.
easy.
It's nothing to shake a stick at, is what I'm trying to say. So just realize that this, again, they're not throwing a dart at a dartboard and just coming up willy nilly with a price. Like, these are people who are educated to do this, just like you would want a real estate agent to stay in their lane. So it's keep that in mind.
And real important to understand also, the appraiser does not want to opine a value less than the sales price. We don't want to, because it's harder for us. We know everybody's going to be upset. We know it's going to throw a loop in the.
But if it's real, it's real.
But if it's real, it's real. Our job is to be independent, impartial, and unbiased. And if the value, remember, price and value are two totally different things.
Totally different.
You, as agents, you conclude price with an individual buyer and seller. Appraisers solve for a different equation. We solve for value.
That's exactly right. That's that is such a good thing to highlight. This is one that was kind of fun. How do you say, your home just isn't worth what you think it is in appraiser language. Like, how do you say that? You know?
How do you say
I'm usually
your home
like,
is...
you're just nuts. But like, you know, how do you say like...
Well, I try to be a little more professional than you.
I don't know.
How do I say it? Well, I'm very careful. It's never about what I think. It's about what the market says. The market simply has not caught up to your ideal, maybe.
Oh, okay. All right. I like that. I'll take that one. Okay. What improvements, and this is, I'm not going to say it's subjective, but this one could really depend. But what improvements actually move value and which ones feel like they do, right?
Oh. So what actually moves value? There's all kinds of studies that the Realtor Association
I know this could
has done
open a
on
can
this.
of worms.
Yeah.
Yep.
Kitchens and baths are going to be your number one. They're the most expensive and they're the most complex to do.
Sure.
Kitchens and baths. Beyond that, big ticket items. You know, the windows, the roof. And even nowadays,
I call those the non-sexy items.
The non-sexy items,
roofs
yes,
and all that.
Non-sexy, and even now with the roof, I like to highlight: you're not going to get homeowners insurance if your roof is not.
Right? Isn't that so true?
It makes a huge difference.
Absolutely.
Now. Yeah.
Yep.
And what do people think contribute? They
a finished basement.
Finished basements. When your basement costs more than your above grade, that's going to be a problem.
Especially with how you report square footage
yes,
too.
Below grade and above grade. That's another big misconception in the real estate world.
Yep.
Appraisers must delineate between above grade and below grade. If any part of that level of the home is below grade,
Say that again. If any
part of that level is below grade, grade is the ground.
Yep.
The appraiser must consider that as basement level. Now, there are caveats. There are, exclusions to that. But for the most part,
every rule.
that's
Yep.
it.
Okay. This one, the next two are, I think, my favorite questions. I mean, I love getting into the nitty gritty of the changes and all of that. But these two are really just for me.
Okay.
But what is the wildest feature that you've ever seen someone have in their property that they think is going to increase their value? Like, was there like a water slide in the middle of a home? Like, is there one feature that you think, oh my gosh.
I've been doing this 40 years. I have seen,
You've seen it all.
I've seen tunnels in homes. I have one. I'll love this one. I have to just be careful that I don't get too specific.
Oh, okay.
There was a home where there was a trap door to a third floor.
Okay.
And the homeowner thought that third level added so much value.
So
and
like
it
a
was
bunker?
really cool.
Oh.
No, it was like a movie theater. It had an outside balcony. But the only access was this trap door that you had to bring down on hinges. That was actually pretty cool.
That is very cool.
Indoor pools. Indoor
I just
pool.
think like a maintenance perspective.
People don't want indoor pools.
Most people don't want outdoor pools anymore.
I can prove that people don't want indoor pools. How can I prove it? If the market demanded it, there'd be more of them.
Oh,
Think
that's so
about
interesting.
that.
They would put the money towards doing that.
Right. If the
I
market
see.
demanded
Very
it, there'd be more
interesting.
of them. Think about pools in Arizona
Yep.
and Nevada. Everybody
You can
has
only
them
use
in
them like
Arizona.
2 months out of the year here.
Right.
in Pittsburgh.
So if the market demanded them, everybody would have them.
What
so
a great
think
point.
Before you start remodeling, think,
That's so.
do most houses have this? Because the market demands it.
What a great. Okay, so just like market dictates price, market also dictates features. Very good point to say. Now here's my last appraisal related question that I have for you. You mentioned about renovation and remodeling. Is there one, and maybe you don't want to answer this because we're being recorded, but is there one renovation trend that you secretly roll your eyes at whenever you walk through a home? Like, a lot of people were doing, certain things. Like, what is it? Can you tell me, or do we have to say it off?
Flipper gray.
Oh.
Flipper gray. I work with 8 appraisers in my company, and we'll be looking through the MLS photos, and I can tell this one's a flip right off the bat because everything in the photo is gray. Flipper gray. I can't wait till the market moves past the gray.
We call it millennial gray. So we flipper gray, millennial gray. I can totally, I feel that in my bones. Yeah. Okay, so that actually got me going. That was good. Actually, one of the segments that I had on KDKA's Talk Pittsburgh was about the color choices and all of that, and we were talking about millennial gray versus like color drenching versus like the colors of the year, etc. A while back, and that gray came up then too. So I was not expecting you to go that route, which is why I reacted. And anyone who knows me out there watching, my visceral reaction to that. You know why, and that's all I'll say. But I did not pay her to say that, I promise you.
It's off camera, I'm going to ask him about his visceral reaction.
So good. Okay, so I have one more segment for you, and this is even more fun than the last. I'm calling it Brutally Honest. Rapid fire hot take questions. What's your favorite coffee shop?
Anywhere that has Kona pea berry.
Oh, that's very specific. Okay.
Kona pea berry. If you've not tried it, you'll never go back.
Kona pea berry. I'm going to have to add that to my list. Okay, Kona pea berry. Favorite local business? And when I say local, I know you're up in the Butler area, so it could be somewhere in Butler.
Well, I'm going to say somewhere here in the Strip District.
Oh, okay.
Can I be specific?
Be specific.
Jonathan Moran, J. Moran Woodworking in the Strip.
Okay.
Brilliant visionary with how he builds furniture.
Oh, fantastic.
I must have about 8 pieces in my home. I just love him. If you've not been to him...
Check him out.
He's not paying me to say that, but I love that. And and how about my own company?
Absolutely, you can absolutely, girl, say it all. I love it. You've got 30 minutes to show off Pittsburgh to someone from out of town. Where are you taking them? And Pittsburgh, Butler, where greater Pittsburgh area. Where are you taking them?
Okay, well, my first thought was I've got to go to the Duquesne Incline because you go up and you get a holistic view of the city.
The Mount Washington view.
The Mount Washington view, and then you can go and look in different neighborhoods because you can see everything. I'm a 10,000-foot view, and then I got to get into the details.
Well, that is one of the most popular spots. So last couple of my guests have also said that, which is like if you're not familiar with Pittsburgh, look up Pittsburgh City Skyline. And you will see exactly, you'll know it once you see it. That's what Michelle is talking about. Dream celebrity client whose property you'd love to appraise.
Oh, well, you're my dream celebrity in
get
Pittsburgh,
the hell out of
so
here.
you.
Get the hell out. Trust me, you won't be appraising much, I can assure you. Half the time I live out of my car. So.
I'm going to have to go with, I'm a hockey fan, so I'm going to have to go with my Mario Lemieux or Sid.
Okay, all right.
How about that?
All right, we
love
love it. I love it. Awesome. And then do you have a pump-up song? Like when you're driving to an appraisal and you want to like just get going, you want to like, do you have a pump-up song?
You're going to laugh when I tell you.
Oh, gosh, what is it?
I don't have a real pump-up song.
Okay, all right.
So, again, a large amount of my business is divorce estate litigation. Sure. So, my favorite song in the whole world is Vienna by Billy Joel.
Okay, all right.
Because it starts with slow down, you crazy child.
Are you talking to me or are they talking to you? I don't know which one.
Talking to me. Slow down, you crazy child. It just helps me remember, eliminate the noise. Okay. Eliminate the noise. I do these divorces. I have to sometimes go in constables and people are yip, yip, yip. And it's slow down, crazy child. Eliminate the noise.
All right. That's the mantra. Slow down, crazy child. Okay, I love that. All right. That ends my Brutally Honest. Is there... typically, whenever you're having coffee with a friend, you have a little sweet treat. And so my little closeout here from a sweet treat perspective, do you have some uplifting industry story or like a little bright glimmer of hope that you want to share with us?
Oh, I love this profession. Oh. I love the valuation profession. There will always be a need for a good, honest, ethical, competent appraiser. Don't let the naysayers tell you they're eliminating the appraisal profession. Don't listen to those people be surrounding yourself with people like Dom, with people who are visionary, people who are not afraid of change. Don't be afraid of change. The only thing in life that's constant is change.
That's true.
It's true.
Well, death and taxes as well. But
Well, that too.
a little callback. No, I think you bring up a great point, and that's a little sweet treat. That's your little sweet treat for you. Well, Michelle, thank you so much for being with us here today at Hot Market Cold Brew. How can people connect with you? How do people get in touch with Michelle?
You can get me on my LinkedIn, the internet, Dom. We can get a hold of each other pretty quick. My LinkedIn profile, Facebook, send me an email.
I will put all of her contact information somewhere below on the screen once I'm still learning how to edit things, so bear with me. But yeah, I will put her contact information somewhere below, probably when she's in frame and I'm not. So you'll be able to reach out to her as well. And that's Czekalski Real Estate.
Correct.
Got it right this time. Awesome, Michelle. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I am so excited.
Love this.
Oh, well, we love you and we love having you. We'll definitely want to do a follow-up with you. We'll get these appraisal changes under our belt and see how it goes. All right, that's all we can do. Thank you. And that's a wrap on today's brew, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you, Michelle, for joining me. As always, I'm your host, Dominic Janitis, and this is Hot Market Cold Brew, the overly caffeinated real estate podcast that's always on the grind. Whether you're house hunting, deal chasing, or just looking for a little real estate tea, I hope today's episode served you up something bold to sip on and take to go. Until next time. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this podcast with your favorite real estate hunting friend. And leave a review if you liked what I brewed. Catch you next time.